Hello student. Introduction to the study of homeopathy. It is the very important lecture from the Principle and Art of Cure by Homeopathy, written by H.A. Robert. In this lecture, H.A. Robert advises the various other principles on which homeopathy is based on. In previous lecture, he emphasized, or in the previous lecture we already learned that the foundation of homeopathic practice is based on the strictly individualization of the patient. But this only individualization of the patient is not enough, while you have to consider a person as a complete unit in himself, isn't it? Never classify or divide the whole human being in different system and different organ, and therefore the holistic concept should be always maintained while you prescribe the medicine. Probably homeopathy stress this view of the individual in relation to his environment and circumstances, and it is obvious that than any other school of medicine, homeopathy stress on the individuality as well as the factors which are responsible for the deviation of the health, and we are going to search these exciting and maintaining causes in his environment and circumstances. The homeopathy seeks to relieve the individual as much as possible from the heavy burden of hereditary tendencies which he carries, and to guard against increasing this load day by day, and boost up the vital energy by the administration of the anti-miasmatic remedy and protect the patient from the further development of the disease. Up to this we already finished the lecture. Let us start the next paragraph. From the next paragraph, yes, this the field in which homeopathy leads all other forms of medical thoughts. No other school of medicine has carried on over such a long period of years this intensive study of the remedy reaction, nor has any such intensive experimental work been done with the result of so faithfully recorded by such a large group of people. That is, it is related to the drug, proving it is the scientific foundation of the homeopathy. In order to know the pathogenetic or the curative action of the medicine, you have to prove the drug on healthy human being. This can truly be designated as a scientific, for the result have been checked and rechecked, and the findings applied with unfailing success when the proper principles were followed. The generally accepted concept of homeopathy is that it is concerned chiefly with the law of similars. Yes, it is homeopathy, nothing but the principle of the homeopathy is the law of similars. Indeed, the encyclopedia gives as the definition of homeopathy that it is a system of medicine based upon the law of similars. Yes, every one of you know this similia similibus curantur. It is a basic principle of the homeopathy. While for a concentrated definition this might serve, yet there is much more to homeopathy than the law of similar. For it would be very incomplete did it not embrace much more than this. Yes, as a homeopathic principle, basic principle is the law of similars, while this only law of similar is not it is a law of similar is not established homeopathy as a complete and scientific system of therapeutics, and the only this law of similar is not enough to establish the cure, while the another principles also play a very important role along with the law of similar, isn't it? It might better be defined as a system of medicine based upon natural law. Yes, the other cardinal principle which act as a supportive with the law of similars, all these cardinal principles, these are all natural laws, and from this all 7 cardinal principles, one of the law of the similar, and therefore it might be better defined as a system of medicine based on natural law. Therefore H. Robert told you that rather than the define homeopathy as a system based on law of similars, you can call it is a system based on the medicine, system of medicine based upon natural laws, isn't it? We need to get a more complete and comprehensive insight into the scope of this law. Yes, whenever we designated this homeopathy as a system of medicine based upon natural laws, then you have this complete and the complete view regarding homeopathy and the comprehensive insight. That means it is a very understandable method of therapeutic into the scope of these law. Yes, all these 7 cardinal principles get together make the homeopathic system is a complete and comprehensive one, isn't it? Not only the law of similar. There is danger of making a fetish of the faith in homeopathy by expecting wonderful result, where a proper understanding of these law would deter us from attempting the use of homeopathy. Yes, it is very important. Try to understand. There is a danger of making a fetish. Fetish means it is a you can say it is an object which is worshipped as a supposed to be a very magical power. Yes, you should not consider homeopathy, or you should not blind belief on homeopathy as it is a it may create the magical power, isn't it? And it is danger to consider homeopathy as it is a which has a magical power. It's supposed to be a magical power, and don't worship falsely homeopathy which has a magical power, because there is a danger of making a fetish of the faith. Yes, is blind faith in homeopathy by accepting wonderful result, where a proper understanding of this law would deter us. That means deter means discourage from action. Yes, this whenever you could not able to understand the cooperation and coordination of all these 7 cardinal principles, you can't or you should not believe the homeopathy as it is may have a wonderful or very magical result from homeopathy, isn't it? Deter us from attempting the use of homeopathy. Yes, this if you want to expecting the result from homeopathy, try to understand all cardinal principles. Without understanding and without the application of this basic principle of homeopathy, you never create a blind faith on homeopathy. Sometimes even without a knowledge of this law, we obtain wonderful result. It is true, but we often fail by not carrying out the teaching of Hahnemann to remove the cause of disease where it is manifestly a mechanical trouble. Yes, sometimes he told that sometimes even without a knowledge of this law, we obtain wonderful result. That means only by the application of symptom similarity, and we obtain the result from this prescription, homeopathic prescription. But it is true, but we often fail by carrying out the teaching of Hahnemann while you are only the applying the one way, only you consider only one principle for the prescription, you will be failed the carrying out the teaching of Hahnemann. And the remove of the cause of disease, whatever is the probable cause of the disease, you are failed to remove it where it is manifestly a mechanical trouble, and it is always act as a mechanical trouble for the disease condition. That means the cause of the disease you should be removed very promptly. Until and until there is a cause of the disease is remain, 100% cure would not be established. Again, in the class of diseases where malnutrition results from lack of the proper food instead of the lack of powers of assimilation. Yes, sometime in condition of the malnutrition deficiency diseases, every time the lack of power of assimilation is not responsible, isn't it? Rather than there is an improper supplementation of the nutrients, isn't it? And therefore in case of malnutrition, the result of the lack of proper food instead of lack of assimilation or lack of power of assimilation, homeopathy cannot be expected to take the place of the proper elements in the diet. Yes, in spite of the until and until you provide a proper nutrients to that particular patient, this until and until you remove the cause of the disease. The cause of the disease is the insufficient supplement of the proper food, improper supplementation of the nutrients, and which is resulted into malnutrition. Then only the prescription of the homeopathy would not correct the problem, and therefore homeopathy cannot be expected to take the place of proper elements in the diet. And this homeopathic prescription not only enough to remove the whatever is the consequences occurred by the malnutrition, and therefore you have to supply the proper food elements to the particular patient, because it is not only the problem of assimilation, while it is a problem arise because of the insufficient food or insufficient nutrients which are essential for the development of the body. Let us take the next paragraph. On the other hand, in the field of therapeutics, by curative medicine, there is no other absolutely curative assistance. Here, homeopathic law reigns supreme, while in other type of diseases where the deficiency or you can say these are not the class of inappropriately named chronic disease, isn't it, which look like a chronic disease, but basically these are not the miasmatic disease, and therefore in aphorism number 77, Hahnemann called it is a inappropriately or pseudochronic disease. And the treatment of the pseudochronic disease is the removal of the cause of the disease which is manifested a mechanical trouble. You have to remove it very promptly, and here give the example of the disease which arise from the malnutrition or a deficiency of any other nutrients. But in the next paragraph he introduced the disease where such type of problem are not found, because these are the true natural chronic diseases. And therefore, on the other hand, in the field of therapeutics, by curative medicine, there is no other absolutely curative assistance. Here homeopathy law reigns supreme. Reign means it is a rule or it is a monarch. You can say it is only the role of the homeopathic law is supreme. That means you have to treat your patient, or there is a need of the treatment homeopathically, isn't it? The homeopathic, according to the homeopathic law, which are always supreme. To confuse the scope of each of these fields makes for misunderstanding and failure. Yes, if you are not able to understand the difference between the disease or which type of disease is there, and therefore you must have a knowledge of the classification of the disease. Here we find the pseudochronic disease, sometimes there is a artificial chronic disease, and then the true miasmatic chronic diseases. These true natural chronic diseases are there, and therefore until and until you don't have a knowledge of the nature of the disease, you or the confusion will be created, and therefore H.R. advised that to confuse the scope of each of these fields makes for misunderstanding and failure. If you cannot differentiate the type of the disease and treat blindly only with the law of similars, that is homeopathically, still there is only the failure. You can't cure your patient. Let us take the next paragraph. Homeopathy considers the morbid vital processes in living organism which are perceptibly represented by symptoms, irrespective of what caused them. Yes, homeopathy considered the morbid vital processes in living organism which are perceptibly represented by symptom. Yes, we always called homeopathy consider only the symptom. The symptomatology is only considered for the selection of medicine, irrespective, that means without understanding of what caused them. Yes, without understanding the cause of the disease. Here he tried to understand the importance of the cause of disease. Homeopathy is concerned only with disease per se, that is with disease as it is, that is in its primary functional or dynamic aspect, not in its ultimate and so-called pathological results. Yes, homeopathy concerned only with disease per se. He only considered disease as it is from the manifestation of the symptom or the collection of the all available symptom from the patient. That is in its primary and functional and or dynamic aspect. That the symptom which are important for the selection of medicine, these are only the primary, functional and dynamic aspect, while not at its ultimate. Try to understand the functional symptom and whatever is the ultimates, the functional symptom which are manifested at the mental and physical level, while whenever the pathological changes are developed, these are all ultimates or result of the disease process. The disease which commencement with the functional changes and land on the pathological changes, which are the nothing but the ultimates or result of the disease, so called pathological result. With these we have nothing to do. With this means with ultimates, with pathological changes we have nothing to do. There are not in any sense the disease, but are the result of disease condition, because whatever is the pathological changes develop, these are not the true disease. It is not a true disease, while it is a result of disease condition. Therefore it is not our target to treat the pathological changes, because these are the result of the disease, but we are interested to cure the dynamic aspect. We have to consider the dynamic aspect of the disease, the functional level whatever the symptoms develop at the functional level, at the mental symptom and the physical symptom. Therefore, we must distinguish between the primary functional symptoms which represent the morbid process itself. Yes, how the disease is originated and how the symptoms develop at the spiritual level, then at the mental level, and then on the physical level, and on the particular level also. You are all concerned with the how the disease develop, how disease progress from the beginning to end, isn't it? And which represent the morbid process itself. And the secondary symptom is the pathological symptom. The secondary symptoms which represent the pathological end product of disease. Therefore, you first classified the symptom into primary and secondary. Whatever is the symptoms at the dynamic level and the symptoms are functional, these are all called as a primary symptom, while whatever is the ultimates of the disease, that is whenever there is a structural changes, organic changes or pathological changes are developed, these are all secondary symptoms, represent the pathological end product of disease. Let us come to the next paragraph. The gross physical pathology such as we find in the gallstones we do not prescribe for, but we do prescribe for the patient. Yes, here he tried to explain you by taking the example of gallstone. The gallstone is finally diagnosed and the pathological condition which develop, and it is the ultimates of the disease. It is not a beginning, isn't it? Because whatever the causative factor for the gallstone is not the gallstones is not developed very primary level, but these are the result of the disease process, disease condition, and therefore we have to not treat the by considering the gallstone. You should not treat the patient or you should not treat the gallstone, while you have to prescribe for the patient. That is the patient as a person. Never consider whatever is the pathological changes develop. Never consider whether the gallstone are develop or whether any other pathological changes develop, while you have to ignore these secondary symptoms, and we do not prescribe for gallstone, but we do prescribe for the patient. You have to consider the mental and physical aspect of the patient, not concentrate on the structural changes which occur or pathology which develop. Being guided by the symptom which began in the perversion of the vital process. That means the symptom which are manifested outwardly because of the derangement of the vital force, and whatever is the disharmony occurred in the sensation and function, and the perversion of the vital processes, the alteration in the vital processes, all these symptoms you have to note down, which preceded and accompanied the ultimate development of the gallstone. Yes, all these symptoms which are the which we call as the primary symptom or the functional symptom, which are preceded and accompanied the ultimate development of the gallstone. These are preceded to any pathological changes occur, and these are also accompanied with the pathological changes. Functional symptoms always precede structural changes. Yes, note down. Functional symptoms always precede. Yes, prior to the structural changes, prior to the pathological changes which occurred, the functional symptoms are developed, and therefore disease always develops from functional to structural. There is alteration at the functional level, and then there is a structural changes occur, and therefore disease is always developed from SORA to psychosis. In biology, it is a general rules and principle, and therefore he assert that in biology function creates and develops the organ. Yes, the biology, the function create, it is a rule of evolution of living organism, you can say. Function create, that means the necessity of this function or the in order to keep the existence of the life, some sensations are developed, and these sensations may result it into function, and function creates and develops the organ, and then there is a alternative development of the organ according to the function or the need of the function. In disease function, the efforts of the vital energy to function under adverse circumstances. Yes, what happened in disease condition? There is a derangement of the vital energy, isn't it, by the dynamic disease force. But in order to keep the existence of life, vital energy combat with the disease force at the commencement. While the vital force or disease force is strong and vital force is weak, there is a disease force easily overpower the vital force, and still vital energy not remain stand still while the efforts are there. There is a continuous effort of the vital energy against the disease force, and therefore the effort of the vital energy to function under adverse circumstances. Which are the adverse circumstances are there which create the functional changes, functions create, and this resulted into the organ. Therefore the functions are the effort of the vital energy to function under adverse circumstances. That means whatever is the symptoms manifested outwardly, these are because of the effort of the vital energy, isn't it? Effort of the vital energy to survive under the vital circumstances. Have you understand? Precedes and develops the pathological state. Yes, these effort, these functional symptoms are developed prior or at the commencement of the development of the disease, which proceeds forward and develop the pathological states. That means the functional change precedes, then develop the pathological states. For the homeopathic physician, the totality of the functional symptom of the patient is the disease and constitute the only perceptible form of disease, and therefore the only basis of curative treatment. Yes, in homeopathy the physician has to collect the totality of the symptom. But which symptom? Functional symptom. Say functional symptom of the patient, that means not the pathological symptom. Whatever is the pathological changes, but you have to concentrate on the whatever is the alteration occur at the functional level, that is a mental plane and the physical plane. This functional symptom of the patient of the which constitute the disease and constitute the only perceptible form of disease, and through this functional symptom you can understand the type of disease or form of disease, and therefore the only basis of curative treatment. And if you want to cure your patient, try to understand whatever is the symptom produce in at the which are the symptom produced at the functional level. You should not take the consideration of the any pathological symptom, because these are the ultimate of the disease, these are the end result of the disease, and it is not the target of our treatment. Specifically, it is not a target of the curative treatment. If you consider only pathological changes and prescribe medicine according to the symptom similarity, there is only the palliation of the symptom, isn't it? It is not a curative one. Symptoms are the outward and visible signs of the inward disturbance of the vital force, which will ultimately produce morbid state. And when these symptoms are removed, the disease ceases to exist. Yes, it is very important. According to aphorism number 7, you know, the symptoms are the outward and visible signs of the inward disturbance of the vital force, which will ultimately produce morbid state. Yes, this manifestation of the sign and symptom we consider as a disease, morbid state. And when these symptoms are removed, and whenever we are success to remove all these symptoms, the disease cease to exist. Yes, then the disease, if you able to remove all these symptoms and restore the patient sick to health, the health is established, then you can call that disease is cease to exist. Let us take the next paragraph. Homeopathy is not concerned with the morphic agent any more than it is with the tangible product or the ultimate of the disease. Yes, we are not all concerned with the morphic agent, that morphic disease producing agent or any material. We are not, our concept of the disease is not a materialistic one, therefore we are not considered some agency or something agent is, morphic agent is required for the derangement of the vital force, and any more than it is with the tangible product. Tangible means it is, you can perceive, real or definite, and then it is with the tangible product or with the ultimates of the disease. Yes, whatever is you can perceive, you can see, or which have a definite shape, which you can see, it is not the cause of the disease, while it is the ultimate of the disease, isn't it? But because the disease process is dynamic. Hahnemann regarded the removal of all obstacles to cure as absolutely essential before he attempted to proceed to the selection and administration of the remedy which was homeopathic to the symptom of the individual case, by which alone the cure is to be accomplished. Yes, only the selection of the remedy is not important, while Hahnemann regarded to the removal of the obstacle, all obstacle to cure, as absolutely essential. This, if you try to establish or if you try to restore sick to health, then whatever is the obstacles which are on the path of the cure, you should remove all these obstacles very promptly to cure as absolutely essential before he attempted to proceed to the selection and administration of the remedy. Yes, which are the obstacle to cure, you first you to find out. He advised that, Hahnemann advised that it is prior to selection and administration of the remedy, you must have a knowledge which are the obstacle in path of cure, which was homeopathic to the symptom of the individual case, by which alone the cure is to be accomplished. Yes, until and until you did not remove the obstacle from the cure would not be established. We thus focus our attention upon the individual and purely functional side of the disease, upon disease itself. Yes, the functional side of the disease, which is nothing but the disease itself, not the pathological changes, not the ultimates of the disease, while the functional side of the disease is disease itself, where we can perceive the sphere of homeopathy. Yes, there is a wide scope of homeopathy at the functional level. Thus, from this view, disease is a constant change of functions and transformation so long as life lasts. Yes, you know that it is just a it is not an explanation regarding the acute disease, while it is a chronic disease. Thus, from the view of disease, a constant change of functions and transformation so long as life lasts. Yes, you know, there is a the beginning of the chronic disease is very slow and imperceptible, and the progress is gradual along with the life of organism, and it torments the patient until the life of organism, and it ends with the life of it. Therefore, it is a so long process until so long as disease life lasts. We are here dealing in the realm of pure dynamics. Yes, this disease process is pure dynamic in nature, and it is a purely the realm of pure dynamics. It is a invisible spiritual acting force which is automatic and autocratic, isn't it? It is a disease, you can say health, disease and cure also. These are all included in the pure dynamics. It is not a material one. This field is the field of disordered vital energy. Yes, disease is the field of disordered vital energy, and therefore disordered vital expressions and functional changes in the individual patient, irrespective of the name of the disease or its cause, and is governed by the law of motion in the vital realm. Yes, at the vital, what is the function of vital force? It is a disease is developed because of the unfavorable circumstances, and whatever is the unfavorable circumstances are there, in order to keep the existence of life, vital force makes some changes. That means whatever is the action on the or action of the disease force on the body, the vital force react accordingly, and therefore it is in this sphere that vital functions act in the realm of law of mutual action. That means whatever is a disease resulted, it is not a action but it is a reaction of the vital force against the unfavorable circumstances, isn't it? Unfavorable environment around him, and therefore it is according to the law of mutual action. This law of mutual action, action and reaction are equal and opposite. Yes, this law, it is a third law of motion. Whenever there is a action, whenever this ball is stuck to this, only the one ball may go out, isn't it? If you push forcefully push the two balls, then the two balls are go out from this series, isn't it? It means that action and reaction is equal and opposite. This is the third law of nature, and therefore whatever is a disease appear, or there is a manifestation of the symptom, these are all the reaction against the disease force, isn't it? This disease force trying to attack on the vital force, and therefore vital force forcefully react to the disease force, and by this reaction various other symptoms are developed. Have you understand? And in his Organon, aphorism number 6, Hahnemann says, the unprejudiced observer, well aware of the futility of transcendental speculation, which can receive no confirmation from experience, be his power of penetration never so great, change the health of the body and the mind, that is a morbid phenomena, accident and symptoms, which can be perceived externally by means of the senses. That is to say, he notices only the deviation from the former healthy state of the diseased individual, which are felt by the patient himself, remarked by those around him, and observed by the physician. All these perceptible signs represent the disease in its whole extent. That is, together they form the true and only conceivable portrait of disease. Yes, it is every one of you know these aphorism number 6 is related to the unprejudiced observer. In aphorism number 6, he explains who is the unprejudiced observer and why homeopathic physician should not be prejudiced one, and how we are become the unprejudiced observer. Who is the unprejudiced observer? The unprejudiced observer, well aware of the futility. Futility means it is a uselessness, you can say. It is a insignificant, very uselessness of transcendental. Transcendental, you know, it is not understandable. You cannot, it is very extraordinary, or you can say it is not easily understand by everyone. Therefore, Hahnemann told you that the unprejudiced observer very well aware the futility of transcendental speculation. Whatever is the speculation, imagination, hypothesis regarding the disease which is not totally understandable, and therefore it is totally useless. Why? Because these are all useless, because these are not understood by everyone, anyone, or it is very complicated for understanding, and because these are hypothetical. Therefore, you must know that it is totally futile, isn't it? Which can receive no confirmation from experience. As these are not scientific, these are hypothetical one, and therefore whatever is the output from this, these are not get the confirmation from experience. You can't confirm all these whatever all these speculations, because so called speculation, these are not confirmed by experience. Be his power of penetration never so great, changes in the health of the body and the mind. Yes, whatever is the changes occur because of the dynamic derangement of the vital force, and how this mechanism, how this phenomena occur, the power of penetration is not so great to find out whatever is the changes occur at the dynamic level. Therefore, whatever observable for us, whatever perceivable for us, it is nothing but the change or whatever the symptoms manifested outwardly. Therefore, you can know the disease phenomena only through the language of nature, that is from the symptom. Be his power of penetration never so great, changes in the health of the body and the mind. Yes, you or physician has no such ability to go through the and have a penetrating power in much so great extent that he can observe and explain whatever is a phenomena occurred during the course of disease, or why this disease occur, because these are all dynamic in nature, and that's why you can't observe it or you can't explain it at the material level, isn't it? This morbid phenomena which can be perceived externally by means of senses, that means whatever is the symptoms develop which we can observe externally by means of our sense organ only. That is to say, he notices only the deviation from the former healthy state of the diseased individual. Yes, any physician can observe only the whatever is the changes occur from the healthy state to disease state. How the deviation from the occur from healthy state to disease state. You can only understand how the human being behave in his healthy state, and now what is the deviation occur and how he behave in the disease state. You can very well differentiate it, and it is the deviation from health to disease state, and the only indication is the alteration in the sensation and function, that is the symptom, which are felt by the patient himself. Yes, whatever is the symptom, whatever is the alteration in the occur at the functional and sensation and functional level, which are all felt by the patient himself, and these are called the subjective symptom. And therefore, whatever is the symptom narrated by the patient, you can know how the deviation is occur or what is the form of disease, or remarked by those around him, that is a objective symptom, and observed by the physician. That means you have to collect all these symptoms which felt by the patient, that is a subjective symptom, and which are observed by the person who are surrounding him and observed by the physician. That means all these signs and symptoms, all these perceptible signs represent the disease in its whole extent. That is, together they form the true and only conceivable portrait of the disease. That means this totality of the symptom, the subjective and objective symptom, makes the true and conceivable portrait of the disease. Have you got this? But not only the explanation of this speculative or hypothetical explanation. Disease itself is impossible of observation. We only see the record the effect of disease. We can only record the symptom. Yes, you can't understand the phenomena of the development of the disease, how it occurs, how the very subtle and very fine changes occur at the dynamic level. It is very impossible to explain and observe, while you can see and record the effect of this process, the effect of the disease process, and which we can see or which we can perceived by our external which we can perceive by our sense organ. Disease is as elusive as thought. Yes, disease is as elusive as thought. Elusive means it is very you can say fail to understand. It is you can't understand, or it is not attainable. You can't see with your eyes. You can. It is just dynamic in nature. The disease is a dynamic as thought. Whatever we think, whatever or which are our thoughts, these are not. You can say these are not visible. These are all immaterial, isn't it? Similarly, the disease is also the immaterial, invisible, spiritual and dynamic in nature. As your thought, we are utterly unable to discern thought. Yes, we are not say something to how you are not discern the thoughts, means you can say verbally whatever is or by understanding your thoughts, isn't it? So it is not a tangible one, while it is a dynamic one, such as are transferred into acts. But whatever is your thoughts, you can't these are not obvious one, these are not unable to these are not able to see or perceive, while these are you can only understand by the whenever these thoughts are transferred into acts. Have you got this? These invisible, spiritual, immaterial thoughts of your mind, whenever you act accordingly, then it is visible through your acts. So we only recognize disease as it is made manifest in symptom. Similarly, disease is also dynamic in nature. It is also invisible, in immaterial, automatic force, and it is also unexplainable by our word, or you can't understand the phenomena of the development of the disease, while you only observe whatever is the result of this process, isn't it? But we only recognize the disease, the existence of the disease, through the manifestation of the symptom, as similar to our thoughts. As our thoughts are manifested through our acts, the disease is also manifest through the symptom. The inner expression are dynamic in nature. Their outward expression is functional. Yes, the inner expression are dynamic in nature. Yes, your thought, these are always dynamic in nature. Whatever is a vital force is a dynamic in nature. Similarly, the disease force which derives the vital force also dynamic in nature, while their outward expression is a functional. Yeah, you can say the alteration in the sensation and function. While all this is true, yet we are dealing with the most positive of acts, for symptoms are a record of facts. Facts registered in symptoms are the most exact record of the expression of the vital energy to the morbific agent. Yes, then whatever is the media from which you can understand the phenomena of disease, which commencement at the vital level. Yes, while all this is true, yes, all this is true means yes, your thoughts are true, your actions are true. Similarly, the disease dynamic force is also dynamic, disease force is also true, vital force is also true, and yet we are dealing with the most positive of acts, and you are understand the disease, whatever is there is a alteration in the sensation and function, or outwardly manifestation of the symptom. For symptoms are a record of facts. Yes, whatever is the symptom you recorded, note it down. These are all facts. Facts which indicate the deviation from the state of health, isn't it? The facts registered in symptom. Yes, this whatever is the facts which are all expressed through the symptoms are the most exact record of the expression of the vital energy to the morbific agent. Yes, this morbific agent is also dynamic in nature, vital energy is also dynamic nature, and whatever is the interaction between the morbific agent and vital energy, it is always expressed outwardly in form of disease. And all this phenomena is vital in nature, therefore you can't explain it through any other, by giving any other material example, isn't it? And it is all the dynamic process and only conceivable by the patient physician through the sign and symptom. Here we finish today's lecture. If any difficulty, ask me personally. Okay, thank you.